So just some opening remarks about the International School of Kuala Lumpur. We were established in 1965, and it's really, ISKL has really become known as a center of educational excellence in the world of international education. As a forward-thinking and future-ready school, we're committed to sharing learning and stimulating discussion about important topics in education, both for ISKL and the wider community. We're also strong believers in our mission and vision, and being a school where education is not done to students, but is done with them. ISKL is also one of the only schools in Southeast Asia which has intentionally developed different high school pathways to meet the needs of each learner. We're delighted tonight to bring you a wonderful group of speakers to give you just a glimpse into our high school pathways. And so our speakers tonight, and if you could go ahead to the speaker slide, our speakers tonight will be Rami Madani, head of school at ISKL. His topic will be what differentiates a future-ready student. Praxia Apostle, teaching and learning director here at ISKL, will talk about future pathways, choosing the right fit curriculum. Ebony Manning, our IB and AP coordinator and TOK, or Theory of Knowledge teacher at ISKL, will speak on the IBDP at ISKL. That's a lot of letters. We'll go into those later. Faisal Musa is the Development and Recognition Manager at the International Baccalaureate Organization, or IBO. He'll speak about global research findings on the IB diploma program. Sean McElroy, high school counselor at ISKL, will talk about global trends in university admissions. And finally, Tim Munnerlin, Senior Director of Education Partnerships at CIALFO, and also an ISKL class of 1990 grad, will speak of the importance of international exposure and community support for the development of students' agility and adaptability. And with that, I'll turn it right over to Rami Madani to start us off. Rami?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Charlotte. Good evening, the people who are joining us, the participants, and thank you for being with us. Thank you to the presenters for also joining us tonight. Special thanks to Tim and Faisal, our guest speakers. We welcome you at ISKL. So I'm here to talk to you about future-ready students. But before I do that, you will see from the next slide something about ISKL. Briefly, in data, we have over 1,700 students celebrating our 55 years anniversary, over 65 nationalities, and 93 of our teachers have 9 or more years of teaching experiences. 72% of them have master's or PhD degrees, highly skilled, highly qualified. Those who teach IB diploma, 57 of them are examiners themselves. And being the oldest IB school in Malaysia, we have graduated 1,524 IB diploma students, and we have been very privileged to work with the IB over the past years and look forward to the future as well. Those students who graduated, they have received $3.5 million in university scholarships for 2020. Our campus is stunning, wonderful. If you don't know it, it's massive and it's very high standards in terms of sustainability. The next slide talks about our affiliations and associations, and allow me to skip it, but in a brief, this is the most important standards that mimic our values and our mission as a school, from being highly sustained in terms of being green campus to also being accredited by high-level agencies that are internationally recognized. Now, let me answer the question very briefly. What does a future-ready student look like? We deeply believe that a future-ready student is a student that is constantly looking for long-term goals, and that these goals add value to self and others and the environment. Reflecting on self in relation to these goals and defining success in meeting these long-term and transferable goals. Yes, grades, academic grades matters for most, and yes, universities matters, but they are not only long-term goals. Long-term goals, when we say future, what's our point of reference? At ISKL, our point of reference is really throughout life, and that's what we commit to, and that's what we measure our success against. As you will see from the next slide, to achieve that vision, to look really far into the future, beyond school, college, career, to really impact on life, every vision, every school will ask itself, why do we exist? It's a very simple question. What's our purpose? Very often, the mission statements are aligned, talking about global citizenship, talking about future success. However, at ISKL, we live that, we breathe it, as you will hear from my colleagues later. So to achieve that, to achieve clarity of the why we exist and how we achieve that mission, you will see on the next slide a graphic presentation that I would like to elaborate on briefly. For students to be successful throughout their life, for success to be defined really long-term, we need to look at values that define our success in terms of what you see in the core of that graphics. The core is really about transforming conditions for self, others, and the environment. We want our students, and we know we do it, not only to succeed for themselves, but to make a difference to others around them and to the environment. When we continue to define success in that way, we are preparing our students to be successful in that future. To achieve that purpose, we want students to develop passion and competencies in areas that make the world a better place. They are captured in the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. So our role, and that's what I would like to stop with, our role is to help every student discover passion, different types of passion in areas that make the world a better place and become competent on it. To achieve that, we need to create pathways, we need to create curriculum and learning that takes them to that direction. With that, I would like to stop and hand it over to my colleague Praxia Apostle, our Director of Learning, who will take us through that amazing journey.
Thank you, Rami, and good evening, everyone. It's lovely to be with all of you. I'm Praxia Apostle. I'm the Director of Learning, as Rami mentioned, and tonight I want to talk a little bit about what makes ISKL's high school such a unique place, and in terms of how we really try to help each student, as Rami said, find that best fit, find their passions, develop competencies, and discover really what our world needs. So I want to start out with a quote, actually, that in a lot of ways summarizes or captures a lot of the background that we've gone into when we think about the future ready pathways at ISKL. So on the next slide, you'll see a quote by the author Todd Rose. Some of you might be familiar with him. He had a really famous TED Talk a few years ago, and it was called The End of Average. And so I won't read this quote to you. I'll give you a minute here just to take a look at it and pay attention in particular to those bolded words, because we'll be coming back to them over and over again over the next 9 minutes or so. So just give you a moment here. Okay, so hopefully a few of those things resonated with you. They certainly resonated with us here at ISKL, and especially in thinking about our high school curriculum and our high school instructional pathways. What we really deeply believe, as Rami said, is that there's not one single pathway for any human being. We see this in nature, and we definitely see this in life. And so our charge as a school is to help design pathways that respond to that normal human individuality, and that actually finds ways to optimize that individuality for people. And we know that there are many equally valid ways to reach the same outcome or the same destination. Here at ISKL, it's not just about academic success, although as you see from Rami's slide, we have this. It's not just about university success, and I'm sure my colleague Sean will speak to you about that as well, but really it's about success in life. And if we want that, we need to really start breaking apart some of those traditional pathways that led us to different forms of schooling and set us onto a new direction that really values individuality. So the hallmarks of the high school program are really quality, choice, and flexibility. And ISKL has a unique offering of a wide range of high quality academic pathways, and they've been intentionally designed to enable every learner to choose the curriculum that's best suited to their abilities, interests, and future aspirations. So learning really focuses on developing those future-ready skills, as Rami just spoke about: critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, collaboration, and the application of different techniques that really offers exposure to a variety of perspectives. So we've kind of spoken just here for a minute about why we might choose different learning pathways. And it's really summarized in those 3 bullet points. Learning is a highly personal endeavor. We know that technology and globalization are reshaping our geopolitical and academic landscapes. And we know that student voice and choice really, really matters. So each student is unique, and the flexibility of our programs means that each of those different needs and goals are supported. When we really think about student voice and choice, what we know is that when, from research and from our own experience, certainly, that learning is really enhanced and it endures when students are really engaged in activities that are authentic, relevant, and meaningful to them. And so you'll see on this slide a picture of some students in our grade 9 PRAXIS program interacting with Izian, who's one of our staff members who works with our landscaping and grounds facilities in our eco garden, taking a look at some plant life. And we'll talk a little bit more about the PRAXIS program in the next slide. So what I want to do is just highlight really 3 kind of distinct learning pathways that have been developed here at ISKL. One is the PRAXIS program, as I just mentioned, in grades 9 and 10, and the other is the IB Diploma program and the ISKL Pursuits program for grades 11 and 12. So all grade 9 and 10 students follow ISKL's graduation requirements as outlined in the course guide. And as students select their program of study, there's a lot of opportunities to choose different courses, multiple different departments and areas to meet their individual needs and talents. And there's a wide range of choices in grades 11 and 12 that do just the same, enable students to explore different subjects and pathways in preparation for their future. So we'll start with looking at the program in grade 9 and 10 that's new for us this year, PRAXIS 2030. And it's called PRAXIS 2030 for a few reasons. I didn't have a strong hand in that title, if believe it or not. It's a coincidence, but I like it. It's in keeping with what the program is all about, which is about taking theory and turning it into action. So that's one of the cycles that really influences the direction and design of PRAXIS. The other is the Sustainable Development Goals, which you heard Rami just talk about. That number 2030 is a part of the program because the Sustainable Development Goals their aim is to find solutions by that date. And so when our teachers were working to really synthesize what this program was all about, they looked to the Sustainable Development Goals and thought, what are the skills, competencies, and understandings that students need to have to meet these Sustainable Development Goals? And they're kind of outlined right there in terms of the transfer goals that students will develop within this program. So what PRAXIS kind of features is a smaller learning community and a flexible timetable in terms of structure. It really focuses on problem-based learning and that situates those global issues in subjects like English, social studies, science, art, and design. And so students really work through those subjects through a series of complex and compelling problems that really demand an interdisciplinary approach. Not only one subject will lead to an effective solution. Other elective courses, mathematics and world language, those are courses that students can continue to take in a regular classroom setting. But the PRAXIS program really fosters creative exploration, effective collaboration. It's really anchored in those real world challenges. It's highly rigorous. It has different classroom activities than just traditional standalone subject areas. However, the learning targets and the curriculum remain consistent for students in grades 9 and 10. So whatever program they decide, whether it's PRAXIS or the regular classroom setting, those same standards, benchmarks, and learning objectives are met. And what we really want to emphasize is that no matter what pathway students decide to take in grades 9 and 10, PRAXIS or otherwise, they really are very well positioned to make that best fit choice for their course of study in grade 11 and 12, whatever it might be. So going ahead to look at our grade 11 and 12 program, As we know, and my colleague Ebony will speak to you a lot more in detail about our IB program, I'm just going to highlight our Pursuits program. And our Pursuits program is really all about the 3 elements that you see highlighted up on the screen. It really gives students the opportunity to combine both IB, advanced placement, and high school diploma courses to create their own program of study that really allows them to take a deep dive into a chosen area of focus or an area of distinction, such as global issues, engineering design, world languages, health and wellness. These are all some examples of areas of distinction. Each of these 2-year pathways, whether it's IB or Pursuits, is comprehensive and relevant and challenging and can be tailored to students' interests and goals. And all students will receive the ISKL diploma, no matter if they choose Pursuits or IB. But what's a little different about Pursuits is the emphasis that's placed on applied learning. That is, taking the learning that happens in the classroom and applying it in a real world setting, whether that's through an internship or a community partnership. And additionally, the emphasis that's placed on self-directed learning. So based on a student's interests or ambitions, they can create a personalized program of study, as well as engage in a course that is purely self-directed to develop those skills that we know are critical in the 21st century and to solve those complex real-world problems. And so those are really kind of a quick look at 2 of the innovative kind of pathways that we've recently developed here at ISKL to support future readiness in our students. Of course, we believe deeply that our overall curriculum provides that flexibility and choice for students to develop those skills. These are ways that we're looking to just enhance that even further. And so I just want to close my section with a few small reflections that have resonated with me as I've thought a little bit about the past 8 months that we're all living through globally, and what our role is as educators. So you'll see on the next slide a quote that really resonated to me, which says, "Our job is not to prepare students for something. Our job is to prepare to help students prepare themselves for anything." So that quote really captured to me so much of what Praxis and Pursuits is all about self-directedness, about being nimble and agile and adaptive, and really having that deep self-knowledge and understanding of the world. It's essential to be successful no matter what lies ahead in our students' future and in our future. So at this time, I'm going to pause my presentation here, and we could talk about it quite a bit, and just introduce my colleague, Ebony Manning, who is our IB coordinator, theory of knowledge teacher as well at ISKL. So thank you.
Sorry, I have to unmute myself there. Thank you, Praxia. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. As was introduced, I am the IB AP coordinator, and I'm also a TOK teacher, theory of knowledge teacher, which is a course in the core of the IB program. So I'm just going to give a quick introduction to what the IB program looks like at ISKL. We'll start with just a few ideas about how our students do within the program, because the next speaker, Faisal, is going to go more in depth about how the program works. But we have a 97% pass rate, so our students here do very, very well. We have a lot of teachers with lots of experience guiding them through the program. The program, actually, the score is out of 45 points. So last year, even in a tough year, we had 2 students get a perfect score. 23 ISKL students in 2020 scored 40 points or above. And then 35 was the average score for all of the students who pursued the full IB diploma, which really says something. But I would like to also point out that even a student who just gets the 24 points to pass, I think they're still getting a lot out of the program. And then we had, this is another stat we're kind of proud of here, that 22% of the students last year got bilingual diplomas, meaning that they did first language kind of learning, really the language A, which is one of the groups in IB. it should be about the student's mother tongue. And for students to be able to do language A in 2 different languages really means that they're truly bilingual. And so we had 22% of the kids did that last year. And then we had 133 graduating students that received over 450 acceptances to universities in 13 countries. So this really shows that this is a program that really prepares students for what comes beyond. The AP results, we also had an average score of 3.8 out of 5 for students in the that took AP courses and AP exams, and 64% of the students got 4 or 5, which is considered a very, very good score for AP. So moving on. We have
and Ebony, could you speak up a little bit?
okay.
The sound is just a little bit muted.
My microphone, sorry. Is it a little bit better?
Okay. It's a little bit better, yes. Use your outside teacher voice.
Okay, it's been a long day. I'll do a little better. All right, so and also just quick introduction to my role of IB AP coordinator. So we have the 2 programs here at school, and my job is to ensure that students and parents understand the details and requirements of both of the programs, and to be the point of communication between the school and either the IB organization or the College Board, which controls all of the AP exams. I also support teachers in lining up their pedagogy with the IB AP philosophies, so to ensure that the program is being delivered in the spirit that it was created. And then I also create and monitor all of the systems to facilitate the implementation of all of the IB requirements. So this includes the internal assessments, which are a series of assessments that teachers do with their students. The CAS program, which is creativity, activity, and service. It's part of the IB core. The extended essay, theory of knowledge, and then all of the exam components. So I try to be the glue that kind of holds all of that stuff together as all of the teachers are working with the students. And then just I'm that general person of support to support students and teachers through the programs, answer any questions that they may have, and parents as well. And then finally, just a few other things about the IB here at ISKL. We offer 25 different subjects. In addition to that, the students can choose to do self-taught school-supported languages. So this is for a student who might have their first language be one that we don't actually offer here at school formally, but within the IB program, it's really great about supporting the students' mother tongues. So we have students taking Swedish, German, several other different languages. We have 57% of teachers who are also IB examiners, which means that they're sort of deeply intrinsically knowledgeable about the content that they're teaching. And then the average years of IB teacher experience here at ISKL is 12. And that's not their overall teaching experience, which might be greater. This is how many years they've been teaching within the IB program. With that said, I will pass it on to Faisal, who will talk a little bit more about how the IB program works and how it's preparing students for the future.
Thanks, Ebony. Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is well and safe. Thanks to ISKL for inviting the IB for this session today. It is a great pleasure and honor. For audience information, ISKL was the first authorized IB World School in Malaysia to offer IB Diploma Program or DP since July 1989. Right. The IB, can we move to the next slide? Okay. The IB is more than its educational program and certificate. And at our heart, we are motivated by a mission to create a better world through education. IB programs, including DP, aim to provide an education that enables students to make sense of the complexities of the world around them, as well as equipping them with the skills and qualities needed for taking responsible action for the future, as well as to equip students to become a lifelong learner. We promote intercultural understanding and respect, not as an alternative to a sense of cultural and national identity, but as an essential part of life in the 21st century. There are 10 attributes that reflect the holistic nature of an IB education. The IB learner profile places the student at the center of an IB education. The profile also highlights cognitive development and the importance of nurturing qualities such as curiosity and compassion, as well as developing knowledge and skills. So is the IBDP visionary and future-based? First, I believe that we need to know what does the future needs. If you search on Google, there are so many opinions on this, collaboration, flexibility, conflict resolution, and many more. So can education anticipate that future? The answer, it can, if it promotes toward developing a skillful, lifelong, and responsible learner. The DP, the IB Diploma Program, or DP, was the first IB program. It was established in 1968 at the same time when the IB was founded. Shown on this slide now is the key features of the other key features of the DP. The program was designed to provide a challenging yet balanced education that would facilitate geographical mobility by providing an internationally recognized university entrance qualification, but that would also serve the deeper purpose of promoting intercultural understanding and respect as per the IB mission. Since 1968, DP has been preparing students for effective participation in a rapidly evolving and increasingly global society as a DP. Can we move to the next slide? There are many benefits for the DP as shown on this slide. And verbally, we can hear from the speaker today, including from Sean after this. Right, next. Meanwhile, university admission officers have long held the DP in high regard. The study explored the post-secondary experiences and outcome of DP alumni at leading universities in the Asia-Pacific region. In East Asia, DP alumni had higher self-ratings than non-DP graduates in all of the 21st century skills examined in this study. DP graduates were particularly confident in their capacities for cultural sensitivity and global-mindedness. Next. DP graduates believe the skills developed through the DP prepared them for classroom discussion, presentation, innovative thinking, global-mindedness, and taking leadership role in group project at university. The DP core was seen as particularly useful in fostering 21st century skill. In Australia, DP alumni indicated higher ratings than non-DP graduate in most areas, again, especially in cultural sensitivity and global-mindedness. Next. Another global study investigated the impact of Creativity Action Service, or CAS. CAS was perceived to contribute to changes in DP students in terms of their personal dispositions, behavior, and interpersonal relationship. Both alumni and current DP students identified the same 4 attributes as having been developed by CAS. They have become more communicative, willing to accept new roles, willing to accept new challenges, and collaborative. Next. Examining the higher education outcome of students in the UK, researchers explored the university enrollment and achievement of matched cohort of DP and A-level students. Researchers found that more DP students attended a top 20 ranked university in the UK compared to A-level students. Results showed that the DP increased the likelihood for attending a top 20 university. Meanwhile, more DP students earn a first-class honors degree as compared to A-level students. Next. While DP and A-level students were about equally likely to continue their university studies, DP alumni were somewhat more likely to engage in further study after completing university. This proves actually they are a lifelong learner. Okay, next. Here, I would like to share with you in this slide the outcome of a survey report on post-secondary performance of DP students. Can we move to the next slide? The research was conducted through interview with a number of university admission officers in the UK and US. Yeah, and based on the survey, as you can see, that IB diploma stand out above the A level for the breadth and range of skills it developed in students. Here I quote an article published on the Telegraph newspaper in 2013, comparing the IB diploma in A-level, pretty much explaining the advantages of IBDP as compared to A-level. Can we move to the previous slide? I haven't finished. Okay. It also stated that King's College London and University of Leeds have lowered down the expected score point for IBDP student. It is not merely about study and sit the exam, get the grade, but the university's value, the journey the IBDP student went through in completing the program. They have different and rich experience while completing the DP. 2 years they spend in high school is totally not a waste of time. Therefore, more universities give special recognition to DP students by giving them exemptions and also provide scholarship. Next. Great. Okay, here I quote 3 testimonials from top universities, 1 from US and 2 from the UK. I just would like to highlight the first comment from the Director of Admission at the University of Cambridge. It was published on the Telegraph newspaper in 2010. He said, because the IB differentiates better than A-level, if we are hesitating about making an offer at all, we would be more likely to make an offer to an IB student than A-level student. Okay, next. Right. Okay, I will end my presentation with the next slide. A picture of a few notable IBDP alumni, including from Malaysia. We are proud that so many our students leave the IB with the commitment and the skills to address humanity's greatest challenges, and that marks the end of my presentation. Thank you. And now let us move to the next presenter, Sean. He is the Senior Director of Education Partnership at CELFO, and he is also the ISKL alumni class of 1990. Over to you, Sean.
No worries. It's actually Sean McElroy is going to go next.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all. So we switched around some of the slide order, and Tim Munnerlin, who Faisal just described, will come at the after Sean speaks. So Sean, we'll turn it over to you. And Sean, we'll just need you to, there you go.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, so ISKL graduates attend university around the world, although they're dominated, can we go back one? Although they're dominated by 4 specific countries. We have a long tail of where kids do go and apply. Next slide. In fact, we have students applying to roughly 19 countries spread out across the world this year and last year. The typical student applies to 2 or more countries, not just universities, but countries. So this frames our discussion around, next slide, please, the trends that we're seeing in higher education. I'm going to offer you 3 tonight, as well as a paradox. Next slide. The first trend is about the immense gravity that elite has on our society. Next slide. What I mean by elite is this statement at the top here. It has never been harder to get into a university than now. Well, that might be true for a small slice. The average acceptance rate in the US is 67%. Next slide. If you look at this graph, you can see that there is a limited number of universities that are super selective. 33 accept less than 20%. And if you roll in the next cluster, we're at roughly 60 universities that are highly selective. Next slide. We'll jump across the pond to the UK, and the selectivity rate is actually considerably higher, with only 2 universities selecting less than 30%. But the UK is also much more self-selecting with tools like the IB. The students have their predicted grade and kind of know where they stand on entry. Next slide. This is potentially creating a buyer's market when you think of students' opportunities. A book just released a few weeks ago by Jeff Salingo outlines this contention that universities are both buyers and sellers. The sellers have a desirable product, so they can hedge their bets quite a bit. And the buyers are trying to attract attract students. Next slide. He gives over 150 examples on his website, but here's just a couple. Emory and Tulane, both highly selective, incredible institutions. Both have very similar acceptance rates and yield rates, yet Tulane is spending their money to attract students in the form of scholarships that are non-need based. And you can see underneath that, Case Western does a similar thing in comparison to Carnegie Mellon. Next slide. A lot of families are concerned about the return on investment. Next slide. Often this gets boiled down to going to an elite college will pay for itself. The reality is not quite as simple as that. In fact, it's counterintuitive that going to an elite school doesn't actually put people ahead when you factor in talent. Talented people tend to rise to the top regardless of which school they go to. Now, your major does matter. STEM majors do earn more, especially in the first 10 years, but it tends to level out about mid-career. Next slide. In the UK this fall, we've seen a 12% jump in the most selective programs for the October 15th deadline. This is like medicine and dentistry, as well as Oxford and Cambridge. This is illustrative of that pull. Next slide. But majors may not be as indicative of what you do in your career. In fact, 3 out of 4 people in a recent study in the US are working in fields not related to their majors, as illustrated by this chart. You can see the bulk are in business, 54%, but they are drawn from all sorts of different fields of study, including, if you look at STEM jobs, they come from obviously science and engineering, but not exclusively. Some are coming from social science and even business. Next slide. Trend number 2 is about recalibrating admission requirements. Now, this was going on before COVID, but has accelerated. Next slide. So there has long been a test optional movement in the US, and this summer it was a tsunami as university after university decided to make that optional. The same in Canada. We're down to 13 selective schools requiring it. Most of those are US military academies and the state of Florida system. Next slide. And the state of Florida is paying the price, and they've seen a huge downturn in the number of applications this fall as a result, because students simply couldn't take the test and they will go elsewhere. Next slide. If they're not using the test, what are they using? Well, 2 tools that have long been part of holistic admissions are college essays and letters of recommendation, and these will be amplified in the reading evaluation, with a particular emphasis looking at character and contribution. 317 deans of admission have joined in with Harvard's Making Caring Common initiative to try and de-emphasize the traditional stress metrics of number of APs or IBs and scores, and more about the human side. Students that are in small classes with dynamic teachers, I think, are especially well poised to benefit from that because they'll advocate more effectively. Next slide. Other things coming up might be interviews. Now, these aren't necessarily face-to-face or even online. Typically, these are AI interviews or problem solving. These are already being used in universities in Europe and Hong Kong and Canada, and we're starting to see the US starting to investigate this. Next slide. Trend number 3 is about changing demographics. Next slide. As you can see in the US, we're about to hit peak 18-year-olds. In 2025, it's all downhill after that. That means there are not as many students likely to go to university from the US population, which is just going to accelerate the demand from the US and the UK and other Western countries that are also in a very similar pattern that you see here, trying to attract talent. Next slide. The international student market is huge, but one of the interesting subsets is around gender. Girls go to university a lot more than us boys. In fact, we're kind of dumb. We need to help our young men, and universities are going to be working especially hard to try and attract men to their campuses. Next slide. In 2001, the international market was about 2 million students. It's more than doubled in one generation. Next slide. And you can see how valuable it is to places like Canada, Australia, and UK, where 1 in 5 students and more are international, bringing a breadth of experience, a richness of culture, and often they are paying a premium tuition, which subsidizes the education for everybody. Next slide. This leads us to the paradox, which really is the question, why go to university? Is it to get a career, or is it to develop your identity? There's this notion of developing career capital, next slide, which is really about developing the skills and the network and track record. And certainly university is capable of doing that. Next slide. And university has long been a place of developing yourself as a human being, what we might term identity capital. Next slide. This term comes from author Meg Jay, who, says it's how we build ourselves bit by bit over time. And that time starts in high school. Next slide. And it starts with the richness of the programs available to students. Now at ISKL, we have just an incredibly rich array of clubs, sports, and community service partnerships. Next slide. And that becomes a cornerstone, next slide, of our, back up one. That comes a cornerstone of our community building, what we might call community capital. And this is all supported by caring counselors who work closely with the students over their 4 years, identifying their strengths and playing their strengths, working with their advisors, defining goals. And this is all very important when you have a robust academic offering like the IB diploma and pursuits program taught by dynamic and caring teachers. Is it working? Next slide. 85% of our graduates last year were very happy with the university they would be attending, and that was 16 different countries with some very famous names to some names that you've never heard of, to ultra specialized schools, to very broad places, small, large, and everything in between. And next up is a delightful speaker and alumni of ISKL, a former school counselor who now is chief ambassador for Psi Alpha, Mr. Tim Munderland.
Well, Sean, I could listen to you talk all day long. How lucky are the students at ISKL get to take on your expertise in your field, and also at Praxia and Ebony. Fantastic faculty there at ISKL, and I am a proud alum. I am a former counselor. I left ISKL and went to school and became an educator, and for 24 years worked my way as a math teacher, or a social studies teacher, a counselor, and now work for Psi Alpha, which is a college advising platform that ISKL uses. And I just want to share a little bit more about my experiences as an ISKL student and also as an alum. So the first thing that I started thinking about when I was invited to speak was the Robert Frost poem, Two Roads. And I think life comes down to a lot of decisions along the way. And back in 1986, my dad made a decision to uproot his family and move away from the comforts of our home country in the United States and our family, and take an adventure. And he knew it was going to be difficult. He knew it was going to be hard. And so we made that decision and landed at ISKL in Malaysia, in Kuala Lumpur. And that's where I attended high school. And the next slide, please. What I found there was that I was thrown into the mix, into something that was frightening and scary. I was very comfortable living my life in the United States. I had a supporting family. I had friends. I was highly comfortable. And here I was interacting with students from around the world, and at times felt a bit as an odd duck, interacting, trying to learn languages, trying to figure things out, and dealing with the Malaysian heat and the not the tuk-tuks, but the mopeds and all the things that come with living in Malaysia and living in Kuala Lumpur. But what I found at ISKL was this large canvas. This canvas allowed me to take part in music, into being part of productions. I was in Bye Bye Birdie when they did it there. And I was able to play sports. And we did community service projects before any other schools were thinking about doing that. So to see programs like PRAXIS and the richness of the IB diploma program that comes with its liberal arts approach and CAS, it helped me to develop myself into a very, very confident and engage young person with that. As I stumbled and became more of an adult as I was developing through, I had an unbelievable supportive safety net. I had professionals that you are seeing here today. There's still a couple professionals that are still current teachers there at ISKL. And I know many educators who have come through ISKL and also current educators there. And I know that the care and love and the experience they bring is paramount to that. My experience at ISKL was unique. It is often tries to be replicated, but very difficult to do. I was able to fail. I was able to succeed, and I was, guided into the world. Definitely a prepared young person as well. And it's a small, connected world. I've used the name ISKL anytime I get a chance. It's unbelievable, the connectedness, even back as I returned back to university and went out into my own world and become an international educator. It always circles back. Next slide, please. And I know the things I've written here are a bit of a cliche. I think about the students who graduated with me, and I've seen the graduates have come through, and I've been on campus a few times over the years. These students are coming through a rigorous program like the IB or AP, and all of you, I think you have this alternative program that you have there. Kids are coming out prepared. They're ready for that. And as Faisal said, these 21st century skills that our employers are wanting, they are prepared for that. And I took those things as well, and I used them in my lifetime, and I made those connections, and I stayed in touch with all the kids who I graduated with, and continue to lean on those as I move forward with that. Limitless possibilities. I think Sean outlined that. There are students looking at a variety of programs around the world. When you come to ISKL and you have a plan for your child and you're part of that, you have a team helping you with that. That was true back when I was in school there 30 years ago, and that remains true today with that. And my final slide. I had to throw this one in here. This is two very, very happy kids here. These are two people who went all throughout high school at ISKL. They did a lot of things. They started dating in their 12th grade year and continued to do that. They went separate directions and then met up again and fell in love and got married and decided, hey, we want to replicate this and move back overseas. And we did that, and we brought our daughter overseas as well. We both have fond memories of the culture of Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur and ISKL. And my wife now, who's there, as I lean on her for so many things throughout life, is a elementary school principal, much like her mother was at ISKL back when she was an educator there. And Jennifer is the elementary school principal here at the American School of Madrid. Our daughter is her second year at Bryn Mawr, where I never thought I would send my daughter to a women's college, a liberal college, women's college in the East Coast United States. But she had a good counselor. It wasn't me. It was the other counselor at the American School of Warsaw. And again, went through the IB diploma program. I know the rigor of it. I know the preparedness of it. I'm a big fan of it. And fond memories. And so thank you so much for being part of it, this chat, and welcome it, or throw it back to Charlotte for any Q&A.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to all of our speakers. We put in the chat all of the topics that, the wide range of topics that we had here tonight. And I would encourage anyone to still put in any questions in the chat. We did have a couple that or a few actually, that we can field. I do want to keep close tabs on the time though. I don't want to keep people too long as well. So our first question had to do actually with the percentage of the class of 2020. What percentage of that was is 100 students. And so essentially we had, and this was from Jeff Farrington, our high school principal is here tonight, and we had 134 graduates and 75% were full DP students. So that's quite a number. And so also related to our IB program here at ISKL, I have some questions here for Ebony. And really some questions around which languages are offered here at ISKL in the IB program. Do you offer French A? If you could speak a little bit to that.
Okay, great. So we do not offer French A as one of the IB diploma courses at ISKL currently. We do offer French B and French ab initio, which is French from the beginning, so someone could learn it from the beginning. However, if a student did want to do French A as their language, they could do it with as a self-taught, school-supported language. So we have a pretty robust program with, I think, this year we have 5 different languages being taught within that program. So a student could absolutely do French A.
Okay, thank you. And a question here, I'm going to direct this one to Sean because it has to do with when do students at ISKL start getting college counseling?
So we start working with the students directly in 9th grade in the first weeks of school. Not so much about college, but more about who they are, because that's really what they're offering the universities on the other side. And through getting to know them and understanding their goals, their motives, their circumstances, we can better advise them. So for example, tomorrow with the 9th graders, we're meeting, sadly virtually, but it'll still be great, in our small group cohorts to unpack their character strengths and take a look at how they leverage them across the domains that are available to them. So for example, maybe a student has curiosity as one of their character strengths. What clubs or activities could they join that would help them grow that strength more? In grade 10, we'll go further into exploring career possibilities. Many of the universities our students will apply are direct entry into specific majors, and so it helps the students really know what they might want to study so they can select their courses in grade 11 and 12, because as Ebony highlighted, we have so many great choices. So we do this both in small groups, but a lot of one-on-one work as the year goes on and into grade 11, we really dive deeper into the college advising process. We're also blessed with about 200 visits every year. Now, most of those visits were all virtual, but normally people come to our campus and meet with our students, and it's just a real fun day every day in the fall. Different universities are on campus and a chance for our students and parents to connect with them, to learn what's possible, to ask the more personal questions, and really drill into that.
Thank you, Sean. So it sounds like we have a very structured program, and that throughout 9, 10, 11, 12, there are many opportunities that we offer for students, and that it's not only a self-seeking kind of a program. Okay. A question related to, and this one I'm going to open up to anyone, anyone likely at ISKL. Sean, you highlighted the value that enrolling in having a STEM major has on potential earnings. Can someone elaborate a little bit more on STEM opportunities at ISKL?
I can start by saying we have a core curriculum that all students in grade 9 and 10 go through, which gives them a very good foundation in your sort of classic physics, chemistry, biology, with a dabbling in ecology. And then in grade 11 and 12, the students have a choice. Now, all our students are going to take another science. Many of our students will take 2 sciences for 2 full years, so they go a lot deeper. Now, these are equivalent of first-year curriculum in the US with the IB curriculum around those courses. We also have AP Computer Science. We also have AP Calculus and AP Statistics to offer along the sideline there in the STEM field. But we also have very rich opportunities around the clubs and activities from robotics to various sort of science endeavors, not just doing science, but teaching science. So we have a group of students who works with refugees who, don't have the fine facilities we have, and they actually teach them, set up experiments for the refugees to participate in. And if you want to know something, you got to teach it. Maybe if Jeff's still around, he might want to weigh in on other science opportunities.
I'm also happy to just mention one thing about our high school science curriculum, and then Jeff, if you'd like to share as well. But at ISKL, we have adopted and are implementing the next generation science standards, the NGSS standards, which is a framework for learning through science that comes out of the University of California, Berkeley's Foundation for Science and Education. And it's a three-dimensional framework that looks at both science and engineering practices, cross-cutting science concepts, and core content areas in the sciences. So as Sean mentioned, we really focus on creating that foundation through our core curriculum for the STEM that students can then elaborate and go deeper into through various course offerings and extracurricular activities.
Thanks, Sean and Praxia. I think just in the interest of time, unless Jeff, you would like to weigh in, I think we have time for one more question. Jeff, it looks like you're unmuted. So would you like to talk about the STEM opportunities at ISKL?
Sure. The science and the mathematics, of course, have been covered. We also on the technology side, as Sean mentioned, in our classes, we have offerings of robotics. We have design technology as well. Not through the IB program yet, but we take a look at all the interest surveys from parents. We do those every year, and interest surveys from kids every year to see what areas they would be interested in if we can offer it in our school. And those courses have come out of the interest surveys that we've done with parents. And furthermore, all through even elementary, my two sons, I have a boy in elementary and a boy in middle school, through the core program in elementary and even in middle school, students have access through two design tech and technology classes as they come up into high school. More for tasters, more for piquing interest, as well as providing skill set, but providing opportunities for kids to find out about these classes and to see if they have talents and interest in those. And as well, the NGSS standards really focus on engineering and scientific practice as part of the standards. So we expose all our students to that type of thinking and that content as well in our science classes.
Thanks, Jeff. And the final question for tonight, and I know that Sean is posting a little bit about scholarships, so I'll leave that on the side in the chat. Just a question about how does ISKL support the AP program? We've focused a bit more on the IB tonight, but Ebony, perhaps you can speak to that. How does that contribute to our pathways?
Yeah, I think the AP program does offer a bit more flexibility, but the perception might be that the AP program is not as robust, but it's really in the setup of the actual program itself. So the IB program is more of a comprehensive program. It has a core, it has the 6 courses that students choose. So if a student chooses to be an IB full diploma student, then their courses are kind of set up within the IB program. Whereas the AP program is more of it's course by course. So students could choose AP courses as a part of their high school program, but it's not a comprehensive program. So they could take 1 AP course or 2 AP courses, whereas the IB requires the 6. Students can choose to do IB courses, but a lot of our students choose to be full diploma candidates, which is why, and because the IB diploma program is so popular for all of the reasons that we've seen tonight, not as many students choose to do AP, but we still do offer 5 courses for those students who choose to do it. And a lot of those students do that in 10th grade and then go on to do the IB program. So it offers more flexibility.
Thank you, Emily. And so with that, we've had lots of great presentations tonight. A reminder that this recording will be posted on our website and our YouTube channel. I thank you all, and I hope that we covered most of your questions. And as Catherine has put in the chat, if there's anything that we didn't cover, please do feel free to reach out to communications@iskl.edu.my, and we will address those privately and reach out to you. I hope that tonight that you learned a lot about how ISKL is preparing its students to be future ready and making sure that we're walking the talk and making sure that we're empowering students to own their learning and offering them the flexible pathway to match their needs and supporting them all along the way. And that will bring our evening to a close. Here at ISKL, we started a little bit of a tradition of unmuting our mics, perhaps also showing our video if you like, just to say bye. We like to hear the voices as well. So please do unmute your mics, give us a wave and a bye, and thank you very much for tonight.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.